1918. Western Europe. Pierre Laval, a weary French infantryman, stood ankle-deep in mud at the crumbling front lines near the Somme. For months, his unit had been starved of supplies, morale, and purpose. On a foggy morning in March, a thunderous barrage from German artillery shattered the silence. "They're pushing through! They've broken the line!" someone yelled. Paris fell into panic. A wave of mutiny had swept through the French army since late 1917, but this time the collapse was total. Entire regiments laid down arms, and the French Republic, exhausted and divided, sued for peace by April. The Treaty of Reims left France humiliated and fractured. St. Petersburg, early 1917. The Russian Empire, long teetering on the edge of revolution, fell months ahead of our known history. The Bolsheviks, emboldened by military failures and famine, seized power during the March Revolution. A swift armistice was signed with the Central Powers, the Treaty of Petrograd. In exchange for peace, Russia relinquished control of Poland, the Baltics, Belarus, and Ukraine. Germany carved out puppet states. The Eastern Front was silenced. The mighty Russian bear had collapsed into civil war and chaos. Washington, D.C., summer 1917. President Woodrow Wilson stood before Congress, seeking approval to enter the war. But the chamber remained silent. Isolationist sentiment gripped America. War felt like a distant European sickness, bloody, senseless, and not worth a single American life. Newspapers published grim images of trench warfare, and protests erupted on university campuses. The war vote failed. The United States remained neutral. The arsenal of democracy never awakened. Istanbul, autumn 1918. The Ottoman Empire, often considered the sick man of Europe, had risen from the ashes. Enver Pasha, leading victorious campaigns in the Caucasus and the Middle East, had crushed British influence in Mesopotamia and pushed into Persia and Central Asia. Arab revolts fizzled. Sharif Hussein's rebellion was isolated and defeated. By winter, Ottoman banners flew from Baku to Medina. A unified Turkic Islamic corridor was forming. Sultan Mehmed VI, in a rare public address, declared, "The crescent rises once more, not in conquest, but in reunion." London, November 1918. The once mighty British Empire was now fractured. German dreadnoughts patrolled the English Channel. Colonial revolts had ignited in India and West Africa. The public had lost faith. In a secret meeting, Prime Minister Lloyd George signed the Treaty of London, formally ending hostilities. Britain ceded territories in Africa, recognized German control of Belgium, and surrendered naval supremacy in the Atlantic. The sun never sets empire had finally met dusk. Berlin, 1920. Germany emerged as the dominant global power. Kaiser Wilhelm II presided over a continental alliance, a German-led European confederation stretching from the North Sea to the Black Sea. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Empire reformed into a constitutional monarchy, modernized rapidly with the help of Berlin and Vienna. Istanbul became the cultural capital of the East. The United States, detached from world affairs, focused inward. Without a global war industry or post-war influence, it never emerged as a superpower. The League of Nations was never founded. The Treaty of Versailles never written. And fascism, without humiliation to feed on, never bloomed in Germany. Though the war ended, the cost was beyond calculation. Over 30 million lives lost, borders redrawn by victors. A fragile peace blanketed the world, tense, uneasy, and full of undercurrents. In a classroom in Buenos Aires, a young girl opened a history book that began with the line, "The Great War was won not by the West, but by those once dismissed as doomed." And somewhere in the silence of post-war Europe, the voice of Pierre Laval, buried beneath the muddy fields of the Somme, was long forgotten. But history remembered the new world he never lived to see.